Now, do you like to go by Chris or Christopher?
I like Chris.
All right, I'll call you Chris.
That's fine.
And I'm Sheri. So thank you for being with us today on Confession Box.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And I'm looking forward to our conversation. I know you've sent us a sort of your story idea of what you'll really focus on today, but before we really get into that too much, what is your intention of going public with your story today?
My intention is hopefully to inspire other student artists to not only to chase their dreams, but to be aware of the different battles that could be faced with you without you knowing what it really is. So it's a lot of falsifying lives that's been broadcasted, and a lot of times when you're a student artist, you don't really know these different things that you're faced with. So hopefully by expressing my struggles that I had to overcome, I can help another student artist like myself.
Perfect. Sounds great. Can you just give us a short little bio of yourself before we get into the main story? But just who are you?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm Chris, aka Benji. I'm 22 years old. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, the West Side. I am a first-generation college student, recording artist, and entrepreneur.
Can you just clarify, you're a graduating student or a starting student, or where you are?
Graduating. I was saying I was first generation.
First generation,
Yes, ma'am.
fabulous. Okay, thank you. So let's start with who were you? What's your story before you got there? And then we can deal with the present, and then we'll talk about the future.
Perfect.
All right.
So as far as my story before I got into school, I was more of an enclosed child. I was very intuitive, and I wasn't aware of the fact I was intuitive, but I felt a need to express myself, but I didn't know how. As I began to get a little bit older in high school, I started to pick up a pen and just started writing out my thoughts. But it wasn't until I was faced with the opportunity to express myself, I realized that I was a bit nervous and a bit shy. So when I graduated school and I stepped into college, it was basically like my first starting point in wiping out my past or wiping out the insecurities of my past to write my new future.
And did you have family that was supporting you in your ambitions at that point, or your goals, or your way of being and being a student?
I had family that was aware, but they didn't know how to support me. So I was really just in it on my own, starting off.
Do you have siblings?
I'm actually the youngest. I have 5 brothers.
Did you find your siblings to be of help in this way during that time in your life?
No, ma'am.
So let's kind of then shift to, okay, now you're getting towards the end of high school. How did you reach a decision about what came next?
Honestly, my decision came once it was the time to choose if I wanted to go to school or not. So a lot of high schoolers, once it gets closer to the end, you start meeting with your counselors and so forth like that, having small conversations about what you want to do next in life. Given the school that I was at, it was kind of pushed on me early to go straight into college. I didn't really have much of my own decision that I felt like I was going to be making. So it wasn't until that last graduating day where I decided I'm not going to walk in other people's illusions that they created for me. I'm going to create my own. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to go to school and I'm going to find out more about me. And honestly, that's what it was. I had to see the stage in order to really make that decision.
The graduation stage?
Yes, ma'am.
Interesting. Okay. Did that surprise your family or your counselor?
It surprised. I didn't have much of a close relationship with my counselor, but my family, it definitely surprised my family. It definitely did. I was more so of a loner with my family. I didn't start coming around until I got a bit older. So once they seen that I was diving into music, it took a turn.
All right.
It took a turn.
And remind me, what age were you when you were getting into the music?
I was about 17 years old.
So that was towards the end of high school then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So then how did you end up choosing and getting accepted to a college which, well, have you said the name of your college yet? I'm not sure.
No, ma'am. It was actually Savannah State University.
Which is, I believe, an HBCU.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how did you make that decision?
So Towards the end, Savannah State actually was not my first choice. My first choice was actually Valdosta State, but unfortunately, my SAT scores did not meet the requirements, so I had to retake the ACT and SAT actually 2 more times, to the point I didn't meet the requirements for Savannah State, but they had a event where they was coming to recruit students, and I spoke with one of the recruiters. I basically let them know my story, and by the grace of God, they accepted me that day.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was really like, I don't even know. Savannah State came out of nowhere, honestly.
Okay. And having now spent your, I mean, there's a lot still to talk about, but are you able to look back and say, that was meant to be?
It's pretty scary how much it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's an interesting lesson in there also that you had not gotten a certain score that on paper at least would have qualified you, but something made you go on and meet one of the representatives,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
And then you got accepted on that day.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's a really strong message for students to hear, that things don't always happen the way that they're written on paper to happen.
Exactly. And I think that was what I had to realize for myself. Because at first, once I got turned down, I went to a moment of, it's kind of hard bringing it up, but I went to a moment of where I just started looking down on myself. But I had to build up that strength in myself again to understand that just because this paper says something doesn't judge how I really am, you know? And once I started to realize that, it's like, let me just ask. Let me just open my mouth. Instead of being in my head, let me open my mouth. And as soon as I decided to do it, the opportunity was presented to me.
Let's stay with those moments for a little bit, because I think there are students and maybe parents out there that can relate to this and can learn from it. Go back a minute to, you said that there was a moment that, so you found out you didn't get accepted to your first choice and you were feeling real down.
Definitely.
Can you kind of take yourself back there mentally, emotionally, and just, what did that feel like?
So at the moment when I did, it felt like a letdown, because not only was my graduation, not only did I want to graduate for me, but I was going to be the first out of my immediate family to graduate and attend a school. So for the simple fact that I didn't get it made me feel less of myself. It made me feel like maybe the outside criticism is correct about me. But over time, I realized that was just the negative energy that I had around me. You know, I was allowing the negative entities around me to down my energy, and I had to snap out of that.
Yeah, and that's heartbreaking for me as a parent and
It's-
teacher
it's
to hear.
Deep. It's deep. It's that stuff gets serious.
My guess is that there's students who reach that point and don't turn it around. What specifically helped you turn that around? Was that people, you said the different entities around you, were there friends, family? How specifically did you turn that around?
So, and more specific, I had to make the decision to leave my hometown. Once I graduated, I realized where I'm at is what's causing me to feel like this, my environment. So, you need to switch your environment, especially before you go into school. You're not going to bring in this past energy to this new walk of life that you're walking into. So I made the decision to stay the summer with my little brother in Seattle, Washington, which was one of the best decisions I made in my life.
How did you have the wisdom at that age? Because that's a very mature kind of decision.
Honestly, I like to call myself, well, when I was younger, I was a bit much of an owl. You know, owls are very intuitive. They see everything around. And I used to do a lot of observing at my age. And I used to observe not only my family members, well, not only my friends, but my family members. And honestly, I got most of my judgment by watching the mistakes of my family members around me.
Can you share a little bit more about that?
Definitely. It was more so once you, at a very young age, I noticed my mother It was very emotional, but not emotional to the point like, this is a movie, but more so like there's times when I would walk in on her crying. There's times where I would walk in or hear conversations about her not being able to pay for the bills, her not being able to do this, but as soon as she'll see me, her whole mood would change. But it was to the point I noticed that it was intentional. I don't know how, but it made me really just want to cling and just not make her feel what she's been feeling. So I started thinking deeper. Okay, why is she feeling like this? My There ain't nobody around my brothers. What's going on? So then I started to just peeking a little more, and I would see, okay, my brothers were doing certain things that would make my mama feel certain type of ways, and that's not what I like. I hated seeing my mama in that type of. I didn't like seeing her like that. So I just wanted to be that person that could be that light. Even though all my brothers is light for my family, every single one of them. But I wanted to make sure I switched the narrative for everybody. That's been my main thing. So that's what kind of caused me to just be able to see. I'm seeing how everything affected my mom.
So, my wheels are kind of turning. I'm trying to kind of get a picture of things.
Sorry.
So at home and in the community around there, it sounded like your siblings were kind of involved in some things that not only upset her, but that you saw
Yes, ma'am.
and didn't want to continue,
Didn't want no parts.
perpetuate.
So I would notice things that my siblings was a part of, notice things that my friends that I considered my friends at the time was a part of, and I would notice follow the leader, if I'm being honest. I was able to see a lot of these things that you all are doing is only because you care about who's watching. Every time I try to indulge in these things with you all, my body feels disgusted. I don't feel good about doing these different things. I don't feel good about it. So once I started to just notice that, I honestly I lean towards myself. It's a lot of things I had to block out, a lot of things that I had to overlook to keep a sane mind at a young age. It's kind of crazy when you look at it now.
So I'm envisioning that some of these things might have been self-destructive things. I don't know. You haven't said specifically, and I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but I'm just thinking it might help the audience relate more to things they're going through or have friends, family going through. Is there any other part of that you can share about what was going on around you, the community, the family, any of that?
Definitely. So in my environment, there was a lot of gang violence. There was a lot of drugs. I didn't per se see drugs being sold, but we would see it being used in our environment. So it's like we would be going to the field to play football, and right down the street, you may see a group fighting. Or later in the day, when you just laying down, you might hear some gunshots outside. And then you just like, okay, what are these different things? What is going on? So really I don't like to say typical things because these are things that should not be happening. But at an early age, we was introduced to gang violence and seeing harmful things in our environment, such as drugs, such as domestic violence, and things of that nature.
That no child should ever be around, basically.
No.
Were you able at that time to find adults that could support you in some way? Or were there any, I don't know what, programs or just individual adults, neighbors, or anything going on that gave you hope?
Music. At that time in school, I was involved in band, and a lot of times I would be staying there after school to be playing with band, and that would just give me a break time to be like, okay, before I go back home to be outside. Because at this time, I didn't know that these things were all the way bad. I just knew I didn't like it. But I knew when I stay in band a little bit longer, I can avoid some of them situations that I don't like being put in. So band definitely got me through a little bit of that time as far as I was in there.
I would think so. Now, I know that there are young people in certain schools that don't have the choice to stay for band because then they don't have a way to get home after that if they don't take the bus, that kind of thing. Were you able to, if you stayed, then did you walk home or did you have a parent that could come and get you, or how did that work?
So at my school, we actually had like a buddy service. So a lot of times I just had to ask my friend. Thankfully, I had a friend who was a neighbor of mine in my apartment home that also played band. So a lot of times I would just ask ahead of time, hey, am I able to ride back with you? Or maybe me and the friends, let's all walk back this time. But a lot of times I wasn't able to make it. I'm not gonna lie to you. A lot of times I wasn't able to make it, but at the times when I at least tried to have some type of transportation for my friend, I made it there. So, resources,
Right. You were able to at least find those resources, and sadly, not everybody can.
unfortunately.
Right.
Unfortunately.
So then, moving on, you get accepted. And now, how did the family react? Was it all happy, or was there concern about, wait a minute, what does this mean in other ways, financially or anything else? What happened then?
So when I got accepted into school, my family was extremely happy. They was extremely happy. It was more so a breath of fresh air to know that it was something new that was being done. So it was definitely excitement for a new journey. Slight nervousness from my mother, of course, because hey, my son is about to go off across the city, but they definitely sent me love and excitement.
That's great. Was there any particular reaction from your siblings?
I definitely had reactions from my siblings. My siblings more so gave me the reaction of, you got to get this done. Like, this is not just for you, but this is for the family legacy. This is for the name. You got to get this done. Even though they may not have done it, but they knew I had the power to do it. So it was more so motivation. They didn't want me to do what they was doing. They didn't want me to do what I was seeing. So it's like, yeah, stop playing, get this done.
Were there any other obstacles then for you before you started college?
My main obstacle was honestly separation from friends. That was my main thing. My friends were literally either the elevation or the detriment of where I was moving. And that split decision of leaving for the summer is what changed everything. So if I would have stayed in Atlanta, I wouldn't have went to school. Music wouldn't have been something I would have went down. I probably would have fell victim to the wrong crowd, and I would have got it right probably a little bit later. My main obstacle was honestly having the right friends around me. Like, that determined everything.
And so, and you mentioned summer. Did you mean just getting through the summer before you went off to school, or did you go on and travel at the beginning of the summer?
Right, so the beginning of the summer, so right the next day after I graduated, I actually flew out to Seattle and I stayed there for the whole summer break.
Got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Thank you. So, okay, so then you spent the summer in Seattle, and then what's the next step?
The next step after Seattle, I spend Seattle focusing on me. I'm using it to build my confidence back, to build my courage back, to know that this next life phase I'm gonna be stepping in, I don't want to step in it the same way I did before. So after the summer had ended and I came back to Atlanta, Georgia, I was in a whole nother mind state. I was in a mind state like, it's time to get this done. It's time to stop letting myself bring me down. Once I got back, it was game time.
You used a sports analogy, and you had mentioned football earlier also. Did you play sports as well as music?
I played sports for a couple of months, but I wasn't too much into sports. The interaction, I wasn't that much of a social person. So when it came to sports and staying after and so forth like that, I couldn't be in that time. I had to work. I had to work very early.
You had to work
Yes, ma'am.
to earn money to support family and then school, or?
Family, school, sports,
Okay.
my clothing. I didn't have much of that support system, or I didn't want to keep asking my parents for it. So as soon as I was able to, 15, 16 years old, I started to knock on doors, see if I could babysit, see if I can take out the trash, cut the yards. Just anything that could give me some pocket change to be able to provide for myself.
And again, you had good reason for working. Did that become an issue at all with your keeping your grades up in school to have a job also? Because a lot of students go through school without needing a job.
At first, it definitely did. It was definitely a point in time when I got too fascinated of material things as a high school student. Given the fact when you're not that financially supported, a lot of times you tend to see students come to school with more things that you would like, more things that you would like to have, just more put together. And a lot of times that used to make me feel as if I could do more with myself. So one way of me supporting that was, okay, you need to start working. But once I started to work, my reasoning for working was just to shine. But that wasn't what needed to happen, which is why my grades started to slip, which affected me in the long run. So I had to understand at an early age, balance is key if you really want to be something better than what you are.
So now you've left Seattle. You're starting college. Can you
ma'am.
bring us through those years and that experience?
First year of college, or my first week of college, was an eye-opener. I was a very enclosed person. I was not that social. So the first week of school, every event that every freshman had to attend was mandatory, and you had to socialize. So imagine just being in a bubble, and then you're surrounded by everybody else. They got an open bubble. It had me a little nervous, but that week is what I needed to open myself up. Like, that is what changed my whole perspective. Knowing that if I open myself up, negative stuff isn't always going to happen. I was scared to open up to people because I felt like I knew the outcome, but I was only just relating everything to my past. So that first year, I definitely used to opening myself up and getting used to communicating with people, socializing, and being vulnerable. That first year, I also came across my hidden talent: rapping, poetry, just from attending an open mic. And it took me for a roller coaster ride.
Can you say more about that?
Definitely. So open mics, it was actually an open mic that would be held bi-weekly at Savannah State University in the Elmore Theater. I had a couple of friends that I graduated high school with that attended Savannah State with me. One of my friends actually told me about this open mic. Like, okay. She ended up signing my name up without me being aware of it. So once I'm just sitting down in the open mic room, they end up calling my name. I'm scared. I'm nervous. I'm like, oh, you're supposed to be a rapper, but you're scared to go perform. So I get up, I go perform, and I make a fool of myself. But I was so proud of myself for the fact that I actually could do it. And it like lit a fire in me. Like, yo, you could be better at this. There's improvement. There's room for improvement from you. And I think that's the first time when I real deal challenged myself to be better at something. So from that point forward, I started to include myself in more of these open mic events. I started to want to join organizations that was dealing with my art. This first year went through, and at the end of the semester, I realized I've been in the wrong major. I majored in social work for my first year. After this full year of experiencing these different talents that I've had and that I've been had, I just was scared to use. I'm like, okay, you need to make another decision. Your first year is done. You know that you can do these different things. You need to stop walking in other people's illusion that they created for you and walk in your own. From there is when I decided to switch my major to mass communication. I made that decision because social work wasn't a major I wanted to choose. It was a major that I chose out of the safety net for my family. I didn't want to, I know they wanted to make sure that I was in something that was safe, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't realize that until I started doing the things that I wanted to do. After I changed my major, things started to change again for me. This new change again, this new phase that I'm stepping in again. Not only are new friends starting to resonate around me, but new opportunities I never thought that I would get started to come. By me changing my major and still attending these open mics, I got the opportunity to be able to join the organization that was throwing these open mics by the name of Way of Real Discovery. Shortly after me joining this organization, I started to attend more of the outside events that was catered towards the community that they were throwing. From one of these events, I actually came into meeting with a director advisor over a radio station. He told me, hey, I really like your music. I really like how you perform. You should come check out the station one time. I'm like, wow, that'd be amazing. Stopped by to check out the station the next day. We get to speak in, and she said she wants to spin my music. Little old me from the west side of Atlanta, Adamsville, Georgia, at college, just had somebody on the radio station come ask me to spin my song. It made my heart melt because I took that type of stuff seriously, like very seriously. It made me light a fire in myself again. Once they finally started to play my music, what they would do when they spin your music, they record a video and they'll tag you in and put it on social media and so forth like that. Once she did this, I would repost it, stuff like that. And one time she told me to just come meet her in the theater room. Like, okay, come meet. And she ends up offering me an opportunity to see if I wanted to be a part of the radio station as a radio host. I'm like, wow, are you serious? Yeah, I really like how you speak, how you pronunciate. Just come to the interest meeting, come see how it is. Okay. I go back home, I call my mama. I'm ecstatic because I've never done nothing like this. And this is, like, I was just talking about this before I got into school. And it's so crazy how this is happening. I'm talking to her like, hey, I just got offered this opportunity to join this radio station. Not what should I do? Like, I'm gonna do it, but like, I just needed to tell you. And she's just excited, go ahead, do it, and yada, yada, yada. The interest meeting, time's coming for the interest meeting. I go to the interest meeting, and I'm telling you, it was like a checkpoint in my head just cleared. From that day forward, I was able to meet my business partner that we're business partners now, which is my co-host, my other business partner, which was the director advisor at that time. And I was able to unlock so many different talents I never knew I had just by me being open to communicate with people. At first, I was blocking my blessings off by not being open because I was scared to speak. But it's like, as soon as I put my pride to the side, it's like opportunities and blessings started to gradually just come in. And I just had to meet it halfway, literally. And those beginning years of college, because I'm in my last year now, so I'm still in it. But those first 2 years is kind of what shaped me to where I am now. Because I went into school first just trying to figure out more about myself. Now I'm trying to help everybody who was like me. Because it's like, I feel like I know the different things that you can look out for. Because not only did I join the organization just to be a part of different open mic events, I moved up in leadership positions. I actually began to move up to the presidency role. And I was running this organization for 1 to 2 years as the president, managing over 15 to 20 artists that ranges from poets, singers, rappers, graphic designers, dealing with these different personalities, putting on different events that can cater to more of the youth that would like to express their creativity. Then not only that, I'm a part of a radio station to where not only can I play my music and stuff, but I can give the opportunity to other people who I was just working with. It was like it just gave me that feeling of appreciation, and it was really when I started to appreciate myself. It wasn't because of the accolades, but it was for the simple fact I cherished the progress, and the progress is what really made me start to appreciate myself. Once I started to appreciate myself more, my confidence started to grow more. As my confidence started to grow more, I began to walk more in a leadership position. And by me being in those positions, I was able to see, like, okay, you inspire yourself, but you inspire people as well. You got a job to do, you got a responsibility. Ever since that day, I've just been learning more about music, the power of words, the power of relationships and people, all from just these first 3 years. Like, this is 3 years. It don't even feel that long, but I feel like I've just grown so much by just putting my pride to the side and listening and just being open. So college was college was definitely a road, and it wasn't all shiny and glitter. It was a lot of trials that I had to go through, whether this be from just me wanting to socialize with people. Even though that first week was spent socializing, it was very hard for me. It was hard for me to talk to people. It was hard for me to trust individuals. I had to gradually build that back up. And my way in building that back up was not only forcing myself in uncomfortable situations, but waking up and listening to affirmations. I never knew the power of just, excuse me, I never knew the power of just listening to motivational things. I never knew the power of just opening my mouth like, hey, you know, you in this class too, would you like to work on this assignment together? I never knew the power of just these little techniques that I can just do that can input me. So affirmations, friend group. I've always heard this saying, you are what you are around, but I never knew you really are what you are around. Like, you truly are what you're around. And that had me to really start pinpointing, okay, what am I surrounding myself with and what would I like to be? Like, what type of people really will motivate me and how can I motivate them? Once I started to realize that, it started to help me better choose friend choices and environments I would be in. College, it's a lot of times that you can get swept in the fast life, whether that be from just going to parties every day, just not going to class, not turning in these assignments because everything is dependent on you. Everything is dependent on you. And a lot of times that can be tough when you're not used to being independent. But I'm telling you, relationships with friends that you value, that you truly value, will really help you. And that would really help me. I had to seek out friends. I had to seek out friends that friends that inspire me. So of course, you can't just go to every environment, hey, let me just be a friend, let me just be a friend. I first needed to see, okay, as a male, a lot of times we don't have men representatives in our lifetimes as young black men in this generation. So I needed to see what different things in a grown man would I like to have in myself, which qualities. Okay, a lot of us are very intuitive to social media. A lot of us are very on to television and stuff. Even though these aren't the right places to look at for certain role models, if you go looking for it, you can find it. What I was doing was okay, this is the field that I would like to be in. So by me seeing the field I want to be in, let me see which different successful black males in this position do I feel like I can relate to. Went on Google, started doing some searching and just looking at different things. Okay, I like these traits. I like these traits. Okay, now by me having these different traits listed out, I need to not only walk within these traits, but as I begin to walk in them, I can notice it within different people. And then that is what started to help me choose. I put myself in environments that I wanted to be around. I know I like music, I know I like hip hop, and I know I like teaching the youth. So let me join an organization that do all of that. Boom. I know I didn't want to just come to somebody as, hey, I'm just another rapper. I know there's certain looks that you get. So instead, let me join the organization to learn this radio skill so I can also have a business attached to it and I can learn not only how to just rap, but how to market myself. And just these different things is what build me to where I'm at right now. And I've come across so many different opportunities, so many different losses, but the losses was actually lessons. Messing with the wrong people, getting too involved within the fast life. A lot of times you can be too focused on the wrong things. Women, if you're not in that point to be just focused on relationship stuff, you're a freshman. You got to get your grades together. Just these different things that you can just easily get swindled by. Just pay a little bit more attention. But that's why I made it a duty for me to make sure that I not only stay connected with these different programs that I was a part of, these different schools, but I also show people the ins and outs of this artistry lane, this student art as a student. You face financial problems. How are you able to finance all these different things? You face problems, personal family problems. You face problems with envy and jealousy. It's a lot. And you got to make sure that your mind is strong enough to be able to defend through those things. You got to have you a strong foundational source. I found that foundational source in my organization.
That's an amazing story. And it's very inspirational. And there's something in there about how did you have all that wisdom to even know those answers of those paths to follow and not the other paths that you could have followed?
So honestly, it's been something that I've always possessed and that we all possess. A lot of times I was focused, I was moving too fast. Now, when I say moving too fast, I don't mean running, but I mean I was distracted by the cell phone. I was distracted by outside noises, social media, the past, the future. I was just very distracted. So in order to slow it down, I was just noticing, okay, let me just slow stuff down. Let me just be by myself for a second. Let me be by myself and let me really recollect my day, or let me recollect my month. Let me recollect this week and see the different things that I've done and if it's benefited me or if it hasn't benefited me. Let me see, okay, I'm noticing these are the problems that one of my friends is experiencing. That means this is something that I don't need to do. So it's almost like somebody be talking to me, but it be me. I know it make it sound like something, but honestly, when I just stepped away from the outside noise, I separated myself from the social media and the phone, everything just seemed more clear and more easier for me to see and pinpoint the things that I know I did not like.
It's amazing. And it sounds like you've already started doing some of this, but let me just make sure. You seem to be a born also motivational speaker as well as all these other talents that you have. Have you found avenues to start inspiring other youth?
Yes, ma'am, I have. And my two avenues is actually through artistry and artist development. So what I have been in the process of working on now is developing a artist development program for students, and not just students, it's open to the community as well, but for basically people who just don't know about the music game. I came together with different people who share my same interest. We call ourselves the Soul Tribe, and we basically came together to form this collective to be able to inspire the different youth behind us, whether that be from having physical activity events, community service events, such as just creativity, expressing your art just in different ways, but actually creating. Now, it's a difference from just going in the studio and recording music versus having an actual writing workshop in preparation to go into this studio and actually having themes that's set that you have to go over, actually having themes for these specific show programs so you can title to this specific target audience and these different things. So just in that realm.
Wow. Amazing. There's so many more questions and things I could talk with you about, but I think for the show, I think what we'll do is, well, let me get you before I forget this part. You mentioned the name of an organization. Can you just reiterate how could people reach you? How could audience members reach you? Now, potentially they could reach you through this show, but is there another safe way that you give out, website, whatever it is, that people could also reach you and find out more about the work you're doing?
Of course. So you can definitely, I'm in the process of building my website right now, but you can definitely reach out to me in all social media underneath 2 Benji. That's number 2, BENJII. Also, our artist development organization, you can be reached at wayofrealdiscovery.org. Once again, wayofrealdiscovery.org. There you'll be able to see all the work that I do, what I'm participating in, and what the organization is getting a part of as well.
Excellent. And I keep having thoughts and then forgetting. I'm sorry. I feel like there was something else. Oh, with all this going on through these 3 years, 3+ years, have you been able to keep your grades up also?
So first, it was actually a recycle of high school. So honestly, music kind of in a sense, my college career was like how my job was with my high school career. My job, at first, I was focused too much on money and I had to find a balance. Once college started and I started to notice that I had this talent, I put a lot of my time into the music, which caused me to start to drop from grades. But if you're in college and you have scholarships or financial aid, it's only a certain amount of times that you can fail something, or a certain amount of times that you can miss something. So I had to really understand balance, time management. I had to understand what was my reason for being here. Not only that, I need to not just be another one of them. Who is them? I don't know. It's not me. Because I want to make sure I stepped in here to graduate. That's what I got to do. That's what I'm set to do. But definitely time management was something I had to really do. I fell victim a couple of times, but what kept me going was that first time that I stepped in here and I didn't know I could talk to anybody. I need that next step.
And do you think that you would have had that kind of experience, or maybe you would have found another one, if you had not ended up at an HBCU?
I definitely do. It would have been a different experience for sure, but I definitely, God got his way of showing you things. And I feel like if I wouldn't have experienced it at Savannah State, I would have experienced it somewhere else.
So, Chris, this is called the confession box. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is to reach over, open that box, and pull out a word. You can look at the word and then show us the word, and then talk to us about how, if that word relates in some way to things we've talked about today.
Wow.
Okay. Does this relate to anything for you?
I can definitely find something that they can relate to for sure. I would definitely say sorry to myself for not believing in myself earlier. You know, it's always something that you can find in any type of message. And for this message of sorry, I would definitely say sorry to myself for not believing into myself earlier. Sorry for not trusting in my vision and for not doing the different things that I can do to better myself, which is working on my health, my fitness, educating myself, realizing how important being impeccable with your word is, vocabulary, and just taking yourself serious. So I definitely say that for a fact.
Okay, thank you. And given that, are you ready to close this chapter in your life by putting that confession word back in the box? Or do you feel like you need more time to process it? And if so, you can metaphorically hold on to it with hopes to revisit it another day.
I'm ready to close this chapter and open my next one to continue moving forward.
Fantastic. You can go on and put it back in the box. Thank you for that insight of a word that was challenging for me when I saw that for you. And how does it feel having told us the things you did today?
It feels amazing. A lot of times you just really need to get this off of your chest, and I pray that I was able to inspire somebody else that was experiencing the same things I'm experiencing. Because a lot of us just want to be heard. A lot of us just want to be heard and listened to. Recognition, you know. So hopefully I inspire somebody to keep going and never stop. If I stopped, I wouldn't have made it here. Y'all, I promise y'all, for real. There's so many different things that you experience on a daily basis that's meant to detour you from your path. But destiny will just shine you a little light, and you got a choice to look at it, or you can keep moving forward, but there will be another light in that path. You gotta keep going.
Fantastic. Well, you've inspired me, and you took the step yourself to send in your story so that we could have you here today. So
Appreciate you.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, dearly.